Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to analyze the 2025 Australian Open men's semifinals, and I'm also going to preview the finals. So stay tuned until the end of the video. And let's start with Zverev versus Djokovic. Unfortunately, Novak Djokovic had to retire after losing the first set in the tiebreak. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see a great match between these two guys, but that's tennis. Injuries are part of the sport. But what's even more unfortunate is the thousands of commenters across various social media platforms who have accused Novak Djokovic of faking an injury and psyching Carlos Alcaraz out. That was clearly not the case, as I explained in my quarterfinals analysis. What's even more unfortunate is that Novak Djokovic got booed off the court because he pulled out after the first set. And in my opinion, Novak Djokovic should have been applauded walking off the court because not only does he deserve respect for being the greatest tennis player of all time, even though he had a torn muscle, he still stepped on the court and tried his best, but it wasn't meant to be, and it was clearly visible throughout that first set that something was not quite right with Novak. He wasn't grunting, he wasn't engaged in the match. There were no fist pumps. He also had some questionable shot selection. In one instance, he was off the court and on the baseline he attempted a forehand drop shot, which to me was alarming because that was a bailout shot. He didn't want to rally, and in one instance he didn't even attempt to run a ball down. So clearly Novak Djokovic could play, but as the set progressed the pain increased and he didn't think there was any chance he could finish this match that would probably have lasted another 2 hours at least. I was very surprised with Novak's level at this tournament. I thought he played an exceptional match against Alcaraz. In my opinion, the best match apart from the Olympics final in the last 12 months that he's played, which is a great sign for Novak. He's still capable of going deep in the most important tournaments. And before the tournament started, I had picked Zverev to make it into the final against Sinner, and I picked Sinner to win the whole thing. But as I explained in some other videos, if I would have known how Djokovic was going to perform in the third round, the fourth round, and the quarterfinals, I'm not so sure if I would have still picked Zverev. And I'm also not so sure if Zverev would have won this match if Djokovic was at 100%. Zverev served well in this set against Novak. He didn't lose his serve. There was one game where he had lob 40 and he served really well to hold serve there and save the break points. But Zverev was also 0-5 on break points. And unfortunately, Zverev early in that first set displayed some of the problems that he encounters when he makes it deep at the Grand Slam stage. And Zverev was clearly playing too passive early in that first set. I could see in the slow motion footage that Zverev was guiding the ball and he was being careful. His court positioning was also very defensive, and Novak, while being injured, was able to hold serve through the entirety of the set, and the tiebreak was not easy for Zverev either. He won at 7-5, where Djokovic on set point missed a very easy forehand volley. So in my mind, if Djokovic was at 100% and if he would have played like he did against Alcaraz, he would have taken advantage of Zverev's passive play early in that first set. He would have converted those break points, and I think Novak Djokovic would have comfortably won this match. Now, to give Zverev credit, maybe he was just a tad tight in the beginning of the match, and he did start playing better towards the end of the set. So it's highly possible that Zverev would have played a lot better as this match prolonged. Shelton versus Sinner was a very interesting match, and Sinner in this match showed that he's human, that he can be beaten because he was making some uncharacteristic mistakes, missing forehands from the middle of the court, putting himself in danger in his own service games more than he usually does. Now, Ben Shelton does play Sinner well from the baseline. Of course, Sinner has the advantage in baseline rallies against Shelton. He can exploit his backhand side that is weaker compared to his forehand side, but as Ben Shelton said in the press conference, he likes that heavy ball that Sinner gives him. He likes to make contact a little bit higher. So I do think that Shelton has the potential to beat Sinner, but only if he serves at his absolute best and maybe changes the way he approaches service games. Ben Shelton, through this entire tournament, did not serve well. In the last 3 matches that he played, his ace count was under 10. He lost his serve 6 times against Jannik Sinner. His first serve percentage dropped from the previous matches. It was at 59.3%. First serve points won dropped significantly from the previous matches, down to 57.1%. Second serve points dropped as well to 45.8%. He only had 7 aces and committed 6 double faults, and Sinner had 13 break points on the Shelton serve. When I watch Ben Shelton serve, I see untapped potential, and I think he could be serving a lot better. Of course, Ben Shelton has one of the fastest serves that we've ever seen. He can deliver unbelievable heat, and he did in this match, but unfortunately not consistently enough. The tricky thing for Ben Shelton is the fact that he does have a lot of variety on his serve. He has one of the most fundamentally sound kick serves that I've ever seen. And in fact, I often use his kick serves as an example of how to hit a kick serve with my students. But the problem for Ben Shelton is that he's lefty. So when he kicks his serve, it's going towards the righty's forehand, because a kick serve from a lefty is going to have a leftward trajectory after the bounce. Now, when a righty plays a righty, the kick serve will have a rightward trajectory and it will go towards the backhand wing. Of course, when it's directed towards the backhand. So when Ben Shelton attempts a kick serve on the deuce side against Sinner, yes, the ball will bounce. He will hit that kick serve generally between 90 and 95 miles an hour. But Sinner has absolutely no problem neutralizing that serve and getting into a baseline rally. The same can be said on the ad side. When Ben Shelton kicks a serve, it's generally directed towards the middle of the box or slightly more towards the backhand wing. And Jannik Sinner and many other players, by the way, have absolutely no problem hitting higher forehands. When I work with left-handed players, I stress the importance of developing a slice serve, because for a lefty, that is the most important tactic to utilize. And why is that the case? Because a slice serve will curve into the backhand on a righty. And if you just remember some of the great slice serves from the past, John McEnroe, Goran Ivanisevic, or even Rafael Nadal. See, Rafa doesn't get anywhere near the speeds of Ben Shelton, but Rafa also had a very uncomfortable serve to deal with. He was very predictable with his serve. He would slice it out wide on the ad side, and he would often slice it down the tee on the deuce side. And of course, every now and then he will mix it up and serve an ace down the tee on the ad, or an ace out wide on the deuce. And even the great Roger Federer and the great Novak Djokovic knew that Rafa was going to slice that serve to their backhand, but there's only so much you can do against a lefty slice. If it's hit well with enough pace, it's going to curve away from you, and it's going to be very challenging to return that serve. So in my opinion, Ben Shelton serves way too many kick serves, even sometimes on first serves, and he doesn't serve enough slice serves. And when he does serve slice, the ball doesn't curve as much as it does on other players. So when Shelton attempted slice serves out wide on the ad side, Sinner had no issues getting that slice serve back in play. Why? Because it was in his strike zone. It didn't curve out of the court enough. When Ben Shelton served to the deuce side, first of all, his positioning is questionable because he's very far away from the center hash mark, which helps the trajectory of the kick serve, but goes against the trajectory of the slice serve. So when he attempted to serve down the tee, those serves were often comfortably returned by Sinner. So on the Shelton serve, there is so much untapped potential because he can deliver the absolute heat, and if he improves the slice serve, he can be a lot more dangerous. In my opinion, on his second serve, while the kicker will work against most opponents, when he faces the best player in the world, he's got to do things differently. He did turn up the heat in the first set on the second serve, and there was one body serve that he hit at 135 miles an hour right into Sinner's body, but he didn't do that nearly enough. Sinner was getting looks on the return of serve. And Shelton in the press conference said that he was very disappointed not being able to take advantage of 2 set points, 6-5 in the first set on his own serve, because Sinner was giving Shelton more errors than he normally does. And Shelton broke Sinner twice in that first set, but unfortunately he also lost his serve twice. Shelton also had break point opportunities early in the second set, and the third set, but again, he lost the serve twice in each of those sets. So untapped potential on the Shelton serve, even though it's great, it's one of the fastest serve that we've ever seen. I think it can even be better. And Brad Gilbert, prior to the match, said that he sees Shelton as a potential top 5 player. I agree that Ben Shelton has the potential to be in the top 5, but that will only happen if he makes his serve more lethal, if he adds a better slice to his repertoire, and if he starts delivering more heat on the second serve against the best players in the world. Because fact is that the best players in the world are going to have an advantage in baseline rallies against Shelton. Looking ahead at the final between Zverev and Sinner, it's going to come down to Zverev's mental game. Zverev plays Sinner well. He is 4-2 against him in the head-to-head, and these guys play very tight matches. Last year in the semifinals at Cincinnati, these guys had an absolute battle. Sinner won 7-6 in the third in 2023. US Open round of 16, Zverev won 6-3 in the fifth. In 22, in Monte Carlo, Zverev won 7-6 in the third. So this is a golden opportunity for Zverev to get his first Grand Slam title. But it's going to be tough, because if Zverev shows signs of nerves like he did early in that first set against Djokovic, I think this is going to be a huge opportunity for Sinner that he will capitalize on. Zverev absolutely must deliver the heat on his first serve and his second serve. If he doesn't serve well, huge advantage for Sinner. But Zverev has been serving very consistently through the entirety of the tournament. So it's going to come down to Zverev being aggressive in the return games. As Federer told Zverev during the Laver Cup, he's going to have to win the Grand Slam title. No one is going to give it to him. Federer said that Zverev was too passive when he had the chance to win Grand Slam titles in the past. So he has to come out in this match and play extremely aggressive. Now, of course, this is easier said than done. And of course, Zverev knows this. And herein lies the complexity and the difficulty of playing tennis. It's not so easy to just trust your shots and go for it. But I will also say that Zverev has made huge improvements with his mental game. As I said earlier in this video, he was tentative early in the first set against Djokovic, but this doesn't mean that he would have stayed tentative if that match would have continued. Zverev's mental game has improved tremendously. If you watch his US Open final in 2020 against Dominic Thiem, compare that to the French Open final in 2024 against Alcaraz, you're going to see a completely transformed player. His serve has improved tremendously, and his second serve has improved tremendously. I am going to make a video after the Australian Open that's going to be titled High Toss versus Low Toss, because I'm getting a lot of questions, people asking me whether they should lower the toss. And I made a video on the Zverev serve after the Paris Masters, and Zverev has lowered his toss a tad, but he's also changed his serve rhythm. He now unloads much earlier than he did in the past, and it's overall a more aggressive service motion. He is indeed serving a lot better, but this doesn't mean that his serve in the past was poor. He was getting very similar serve speeds on his first serve, but the second serve was a big question mark, and it was a question mark because the mental game of Zverev was different in 2020 compared to 2024 and 2025. He is a much stronger player mentally speaking, and he trusts his second serve a lot more, and he's not afraid to deliver the heat. So the serve has improved tremendously. He is now the second best server in the world. But the big question mark is, can Zverev play a similar match like the one he did at the French Open against Alcaraz, where he was aggressive, where he was up 2-1, where he wasn't tentative and scared to win? But where this comparison gets tricky is that we're talking about different surfaces and different opponents. So I think there's a big difference between Jannik Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz. I do think that Carlos Alcaraz has more ups and downs in his matches compared to Sinner in the last 12 months. Jannik Sinner is the best player in the world, and despite him not being near his best against Shelton, he still won in straight sets. He's very difficult to break. He's incredibly aggressive from the baseline. He returns exceptionally well. And most importantly, Jannik Sinner plays the pressure points, the big points of a match better than any other player over the course of the last 12 months. So I have my doubts that Zverev will be able to overcome this hurdle.